are brave. You don't have to learn French.
A true part of your family.
It's been an honor to work for you, our loyal viewers, over the past 37 years. I really appreciate the love and support that you've shared. Thank you very much.
Tonight, we say goodbye to our adorable Donna.
And tonight, we are heartbroken, along with so many of you who are feeling the loss of our beloved friend, Donna Britt. This is her chair, which she sat in for 37 years. This is the spot she guided us through. Welcome in, friends. Adorable Donna. That is how her co-anchor and TV husband George Sells referred to her. There are no words, at least not enough words, to tell you exactly what Donna Britt meant to WAFB, this community, and its causes.
Greg, we are truly humbled and gracious for the outpouring of support from all of you over the loss of our Donna after her battle with ALS. Over the next hour, we are going to do our best to honor a true legend.
We start with this tribute to the wonderful Donna Britt.
And I'm Donna Britt.
If ever there was a museum of what went on in the last 4 decades in Baton Rouge, could you find a better tour guide than Donna Britt? She was as well known as family and just as familiar in any home. South Louisiana adopted its darling Donna Britt, a true treasure that thankfully found us. She was always there as sometimes the storms of life rolled in.
Good evening. It's taken all day to even begin to recover from what nature did in just a split second. No evidence of a huge chemical release, and so neighbors around the plant have been very concerned about whether they can open their windows.
You felt like she always had your back.
The time is now safe.
In the late 1970s at LSU, Donna was well on her way to an almost certain career in music. But it turns out a simple trip to St. Francisville changed that. You see, WFB legend Carlton Cremines was on his way to his camp there in St. Francisville when he heard a Donna James on his radio. He says he figured that smooth voice would be a great fit on his television station. And at WAFB, Donna's new music became the accompaniment of our area's triumphs and times.
Donna Britt. Well, our top story breaking at this hour.
The big and the small, the good and what could be better. Either way, you trusted what she told you. And she wasn't alone.
This is Newsline 9 at 10 with George Sells, Donna Britt.
When you were a little kid, you probably thought they were married. Not quite, but just about as close to a perfect partnership as you could get. The legendary team of Donna Britt and George Sells.
And you know, who could have a better partner? We have no common interests, none.
Well, opposites attract, right?
Thanks for watching WAFB.
In her almost 4 decades on the news, Donna seemed like a real-life friend on the other side of the screen. And that's because she was, delivering the news through the years in her own style.
I wasn't going to tell this, but I couldn't go to the game tonight, so I drove by Alex Box Stadium with my windows down, hoping to hear a ball crack against the bat.
Yes, Baton Rouge's sister city is a beautiful one.
And finally, not far from here, just a short drive, is a major port city known for its raucous nightlife with a population about the size of New Orleans. In Aix-en-Provence, France, I'm Donna Britt with photographer James DeGraw, WAFB News.
The main reason Donna felt like a friend was you could hug her neck as she walked alongside of you and cheered you on.
Santa came to say.
You could feel her rattle your eardrums with a bell. You could call her and she would be there, everywhere.
My husband and I would go walking around the lakes, and it was something we did every day. But we couldn't understand why I started stumbling during all of this.
Donna first had a minor surgery to remove a bunion on her right foot, But not long after, she suddenly started losing feeling in her other leg. This is footage of Donna anchoring when things got worse. What the viewers didn't know, behind the desk, Donna says her left leg started to feel like jello. Soon, her balance was off, way off. But because you are family, Donna clued you in.
Well, hi. 3 days of testing in Houston, Texas. 6 doctors, 12 tests, shows that I have ALS.
And like family, you got to follow her every step of the way, even as those steps got harder and harder to take, eventually down an uncertain and unwelcomed road.
The speech pathologist says I have changed the culture of my personality. She said she was watching me work the hall, in other words, talk to everyone you saw. She said, you're going to have to stop talking as much if you want to preserve your voice. She said, I've never had an anchor woman for a patient.
Our world of television news flickered when Donna revealed her diagnosis. But so many of you stayed tuned in to her ups and downs, your words and encouragement now holding her up as her legs and hands and eventually her lungs and all the things that help us move started to fail.
Thanks, WAFB, for a wonderful, challenging, stimulating career. Thank you for also being my friends. I also want to thank you, the viewer. So many of you made me a member of your family. I love that.
In her last days and without the hectic schedule of TV news, Donna got to spend more time with her kids and see Louie and Annie become the great people she'd hoped they'd be. And she got something as simple as quiet evenings at home with her husband Mark. In the end, and in her own words, Donna did not want to be seen as someone dying of ALS, but instead as someone living with ALS. In the final days, Donna nearly lost her ability to communicate. But ALS, as evil as it may be, couldn't silence Donna Britt. A great communicator will always find a way, and Donna did up until the very end.
I have stood on the shoulders of giants.
Donna Britt was always our guide and our friend, that unexpected bright spot in dark times. That super smart, terrifically talented, and goofy next-door neighbor who made your kids laugh and made you glad you moved in. Donna Britt, truly as well known as family and just as familiar in any home. I count it as a blessing that I got to work with Donna for almost 20 years. She left a legacy on my heart that I will always remember, and we know that so many of you out there share that feeling too.
Absolutely, Greg. She is someone who is one of a kind, a very rare person. That was a story, by the way, Greg, that just certainly touched my heart, and the third time I've seen it today and got through it without crying this time. But Donna, it's been said, has touched every part of our community and lives, and I had the privilege of talking with some of the people who felt that impact firsthand.
We hope that what we leave behind in this world will make it a better place, will be something worth remembering. What Donna Britt leaves behind is a legacy that's hard to capture in words.
Beautiful woman, beautiful person, best newswoman ever to hit this town.
Donna Britt embodied the act of service. While in Baton Rouge, she gave of her time, her talent, and used her voice to bring attention to issues that mattered.
It was that sort of selfless generosity that was characteristic of her throughout her life.
As a two-time survivor of breast cancer, she used her story of survival to bring hope to others in the height of their battle.
Donna could be in a big crowd and command a crowd like she was on many mornings at Race for the Cure, but she never forgot the individual. I saw her take so much time with people who wanted to take pictures or just communicate, talk to her for a few minutes, and she lent herself to everyone.
When ALS challenged her with a battle she would not survive, she still found a way to beat it in her own way. She shared every painful step of her journey, using her struggle to bring attention to a disease that for many years hid in the shadows. The director of patient care for the local ALS chapter says she changed the conversation around ALS for the better.
When you say ALS, people know what you're talking about for the most part now. And that wasn't the case pre-Donna's diagnosis. It was still a very unknown thing. And so just the awareness has gotten patients into clinics quicker. Like literally people are getting care faster because they know what it is because of Donna Britt.
Even in her final days, she gave back. Her family plans to donate some of her medical equipment to the association so other ALS patients can have what they need. Fellow journalist Stephanie Riegel was with her in some of her final moments.
She was so selfless, even in her illness, and as she progressed and needed more things, she was more concerned about giving back to the ALS organization than wanting to accept help.
Donna also served her community from behind the WAFB anchor desk. For nearly 40 years, she told the stories that mattered and provided a light for the community in the darkest of times.
But people don't remember and don't really know because it was behind the scenes. But she was a hard-nosed newswoman, one of the best I've ever worked with in my life.
She always had a positive outlook on whatever was happening. That doesn't mean she would color something that wasn't terrible in any other way than it truthfully was, but she would just have the ability to look for encouragement even in something that was dark.
She also played the role of mentor, placing generations of journalists on her shoulders and following them long after they left WAFB.
She just taught me about finding my voice, and I still to this day read my copy out loud. She was a teacher in the kindest way, but she could be tough when she needed to be.
A legacy of service that will continue to grow. That is what Donna Britt leaves behind in Baton Rouge.
I love you. And thank you.
I think there's a lot of people who could say thank you to Donna Britt. Joining us now is Mayor President of East Baton Rouge Parish, Sharon Weston Broome. Mayor, thank you so much for joining us on this day and helping us honor our friend. You put out on Twitter a very sweet message that I want to thank you for putting out. And you said to know Donna was to love her. And
Absolutely.
I think that means and captures it just right.
Absolutely. You know, I had the opportunity and I was blessed to know her during her tenure here as an elected official, but also we had some off-the-record conversations as well. And wherever there was something positive going on to uplift people in this community, you could find Donna there. And so I can remember it was almost like we were, our paths were parallel. If I was somewhere for a community group, she was there as well. I can remember our annual gathering was at the Grandparents Raising Grandchildren event.
Fantastic event.
A fantastic event. She was part of the fabric of that event, like so many other events throughout our community. And you know, Elizabeth, while this was her career and this was her place and space, her impact, as you've heard from so many people, went beyond that. And I really feel that this was just a launching pad for all of the other things that she did for the citizens in our community, the city, and this parish, because she left her imprint all over the city. She touched so many lives. And so while she did an excellent job as an anchor, I believe that her servant's heart was really seen throughout the community.
Yeah, it's hard to name an organization that she didn't involve herself with in some form or fashion. And, you know, I think if someone thinks that one person can't make a difference, all you have to do is look at someone like Donna Britt, who did. You know, what's it like to have someone in the community that people can look to as that example?
It means a lot. And now you hear people talking about the impact that she had. It means a lot because people see anchors beyond the TV screen and see that they are genuinely a part of this community, part of the fabric of this community. And Donna indeed was part of the fabric of this community and will remain for years to come. You know, I am a firm believer that we're often very fortunate and blessed to receive positions, to accomplish a lot of things in life, but at the end of the day, Donna epitomized what I believe is the true measure of greatness, and that is your concern and your care for others. She demonstrated that to all of us.
You know, sometimes, and especially I guess in this climate today, there's been a lot of talk and focus on the relationship between journalists and elected officials and the roles that the kind of hand-in-hand role that you play in serving the community. Talk to me about the relationship that you had with Donna, because this is an example of how those relationships can be positive and are positive and can do so much.
Absolutely. You know, whenever I was around Donna, she encouraged me on my journey as a public servant. She shared a few things with me, as I said, off the record, not compromising her journalistic ethics, but once again, tapping into her servant's heart and sharing some things with me that certainly helped edify and build me up as a woman and as a public servant. I remember when we were at the Golden Deeds Award that she went on and on about me and what I needed to do. And, you know, she also had that motherly instinct with a lot of us, even though she was not that old. But that's how many of us felt about Donna. She offered a lot of wise counsel to a lot of people, including me.
Absolutely. Well, Mayor President Sharon Weston Broome joining us, honoring Donna today. Thank you very much. We very much appreciate your time and your tribute to our Donna. So we've heard from a lot of people today, a lot of memories about Donna. And this afternoon, we actually also caught up with the mayor of Gonzales, Barney Arsenault. Take a listen.
Donna, to me, was the professional journalist. I mean, always knew what she wanted to say. She wasn't what I call the talking heads that you see on these major networks. She reported the news. And I think that's why everyone loved her so much. But the other thing is that truly, she was just one of the sweetest ladies you ever wanted to meet. So nice, so kind, and to me that goes a long way, especially in the journalism world. But she had to be one of the nicest ladies I ever met.
Such wonderful tributes. Everybody has their own Donna Britt story. That just shows you how genuine she was with all of us and all of you out there. You know, she had a bunch of work husbands over the years, co-anchors, and she had a lot of work children. I include myself in one of those. She kind of helped raise me professionally. I really appreciate the legacy that she will leave, and we wanted you to hear now some of that legacy and what she really meant to so many of you through our eyes and through her family's eyes. Here's Scotty Hunter.
Family. It's what made Donna Britt the happiest.
Baton Rouge police have arrested the suspect in the rape that occurred.
Despite her stellar career and megawatt personality she so amazingly brought to the news each night, her husband Mark Ballard, who works for the Advocate newspaper, says at home things were different.
A lot of people thought that, you know, we talk journalism all the time, and actually we talk very little journalism.
No matter how hectic the day got or how stressful the story, Mark says Donna always made home a priority, racing there in the middle of her shift to cherish her family.
She would be home for dinner, and so she would come home after the 6 o'clock news, and then after dinner rush back. But as a family, we all sat and ate together. And
between him, their son Louie, and their daughter Annie, and even this sweet grandbaby she was able to meet last August, Donna truly had it all. And in true Donna fashion, she soaked up all that love she received and showered it onto others, including her extended family right here at WAFB.
Donna makes an effort to stop and talk with you, to visit with you, to learn where your family's from, to learn more about you. And more than anything, she fills you with hope because she's your biggest cheerleader.
I never heard her say a critical word about anyone ever. It was always something uplifting, always something positive.
Donna was vibrant, larger than life, truly an icon that so many of the journalists at Channel 9 leaned on in hard times and laughed with in moments of levity. To know her was to love her, and really, to be mentored by her was a gift. Always the epitome of poise and grace, the way she could reach through and connect with everyone around her was the stuff of wonders.
When it comes down to it, what I remember most about Donna is her compassion and her empathy.
That meant the absolute world to me because I thought, man, if Donna Britt is in my corner, I can do this.
We're told it happened just before 5:30 on Aldrich Drive.
During her time at WAFB, she had many leading men to stand behind her on the anchor desk.
You know, I was a little nervous, anchoring with Donna Britt. I mean, she'd been here forever, as long as I'd been here.
The last was Greg Merriweather, who says sharing that time with her was the opportunity of a lifetime. He watched her bravely fight back against her illness until she graced the set for the last time in June 2018.
We're both nervous tonight. This, of course, is Donna Britt. Don't even really have to tell your name. You've been all over billboards.
Up until that final newscast, and as her body betrayed her behind the scenes, Donna wasn't concerned about herself. Instead, yet again, she was focused solely on those around her, her family.
I think she understood that the viewers saw a little crack in the Donna Britt that they had seen for 30 years. But the viewers understood what was going on, and I think Donna knew that they did, but she wanted to give them just an insight, a little peek behind the curtain, and it's kind of what you do with family.
For 37 years, she held this community's hand and gave back so much of herself. But her husband says being so active and giving back however she could gave her so much joy, even when she could no longer do the things she wanted to.
That kind of stuff was more important to her, I think, than actually reading the news every night.
In the end, Mark says he'd want Donna to be here forever, but realizes that would be selfish considering what she was up against.
The last 6 months or so, she had gone so far downhill. You could see it in her eyes, you could see it in her face, that she wasn't able to speak, she wasn't able to communicate, and that she found that very frustrating.
While she will be deeply and utterly missed by so many across the Baton Rouge area and beyond, her husband says if there's one thing you should take from his partner and the remarkable life she lived, it's to love each other as much as she loved you and to know each of you were part of her family.
Thank you for that fitting tribute, Scotty. We have all of our prayers with Mark, Louie, and Annie, her wonderful family. I just can't help but think, as you heard Mark there say, that she pretty much had lost her ability to communicate, that Donna has her voice back as we speak right now, and she is using it big time with the big man upstairs. Steve Schneider is here with us. He's our longtime sports director. Steve, you worked with her pretty much as long as anybody in that building there at Channel 9. She basically watched you raise your family and all. I know that this kind of hit you pretty hard. Share some of your memories that you have of our adorable Donna.
Well, I definitely agree with you, Greg. She's a first ballot Hall of Famer in heaven, for sure. A couple things that I would tell you that you might find surprising. Number one, she wouldn't be happy with us right now. She wouldn't be happy that we're taking 60 minutes devoting to her when there are people out in the community who need our help or need our information. That's just the kind of person Donna was. The other thing that I think you would find a little bit interesting is that she wasn't special. And you say, well, Steve, how could you possibly say this woman wasn't special? Well, I heard her answer the phone every day. It's only Donna Britt. That's the way she thought of herself, okay? That she was just a person like any other person. And I'm sure there's millions across America who live their life the same way Donna Britt did in service. She was a preacher's daughter. She knew the scriptures. She knew that the most important thing that she could do was humble herself and put other people on that pedestal. And the difference was that she had the stage, the television audience that she could share that with, which obviously did make her special. But that's the way she approached people, and that's why she became so approachable in the community, because everybody felt like she's not special, she's just one of us, which made obviously her messages and her work in this community very powerful.
Steve, your amazing creation of Sportsline Friday night. Donna was such a huge fan of that. And it was because you guys got to shine the spotlight again, not on us, but on somebody else. And boy, she could not wait to say Sportsline Friday night coming up.
She was pretty enthusiastic about that, and I think it was mostly because it highlighted our community. The kids, the teachers, not just the kids who played football, but the band, the cheerleaders, you know, everybody that's involved in that atmosphere. And look, this is a woman who used to go to school and serve in the lunch line, right? This is a woman who would, again, make sure that she was there for her kids when they got off school, do their homework. And you're like, how could she possibly do all this stuff? You know, we only have 24 hours. I'm pretty sure she must have had some kind of deal to get 28 hours, because I would see her in an edit bay, an edit room, at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, editing a story or some project she was working on, just so she could take care of every cause, every story, and not just do it okay, but do it with excellence. The work ethic for this woman was amazing, and she expected of everybody in the building. And you've heard a lot of people talk about her mentoring young people. It wasn't just the news anchors or the girls. It was everybody that came through the building. I think you know that we've had a quite number of sports interns over the years who've gone on to great careers. I don't think there's one that this woman didn't touch, whether she walked back into the sports office and say, hey, you did a great read there, or you've got a great future, or just put in the work and you will see it grow.
Donna Britt. That is, I think, probably her lasting legacy is just how many journalists that she has touched over the years. Steve, because we're talking sports right now, Donna, we mentioned earlier, had won all kinds of awards, but she was so happy to get that number 18 jersey from LSU. And just what a terrific honor, because, you know, that's set aside for the special of the special. And for her to get that, she was just over the moon.
She was. Of course, you know, we both came from Mississippi, spent time in Hattiesburg, but ended up at LSU. Of course, she was an LSU sports fan. She sang the national anthem at some sporting events. Baseball was her go-to sport, as I think you know. She'd put on that ball cap, wouldn't wear any makeup, a T-shirt, maybe some sweats. Not that she was necessarily hiding from people. People knew she was there, but she really loved the game of baseball and couldn't really get enough of it. And obviously to be honored in that way meant a lot to her.
Yeah, I think about how I met Donna when I first got there, and I told the story earlier about I always wanted Donna Britt to be there when my parents visited, because they always were, you know, a little leery. They lived in Kentucky. I lived in Baton Rouge. I was an only child. Who's looking out for Greg? And, you know, I came here as a 22-year-old kid. And when they came in the door, Donna just runs up and just grabs him and hugs him. And I lost my mom in August, but she asked me about Donna Britt up until the very end. And so I think about that with you, as the fact is, you know, she saw your daughter Alyssa works here at the station, and she got to see her grow up from nothing to all the way to what she is. And so it just really sticks with me just how long we've had Donna in our lives and how special it's been.
She was a loving woman. That's all you have to say. She showed it every day to everyone she came across. You know, the Bible says that you're supposed to love your neighbor. She loved her enemy. She loved all races, all creeds, ages. It didn't matter. She loved people. And, you know, a lot of people out there right now, they're trying to hit the Powerball. They want to get the big money. Well, money can't buy you love. But I'll tell you what, I felt like coming to work every day with her, we were all big winners. She is going to be missed, and obviously the thing I'm thankful for is, after suffering there the last couple of years, that she's now in a better place that we all hope we're in one day.
Absolutely. Sports Director Steve Schneider, thank you very much for your memories. Thank you for your service, and thank you for your friendship to Donna. I know that she was very proud of that and proud of you, your family, and all the success that you brought to us. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You bet, Greg. Thanks.
Yeah, some wonderful memories here in the station. Everybody was touched by Donna in their own way, and Steve said it. She was the epitome of love. Love your neighbor. And that's what she did, and that's what she tried to teach all of us through her actions, and so many of you as well. We have been overwhelmed and overjoyed for you to share your tributes to Donna, your memories with Donna. Our emails have been full, our phones have been ringing off the hook, and just on Facebook, on social media, all over the place. Pictures, stories. It seems like every one of you at home has your own Donna story, and you've been sharing it with us, and we're so thankful for that. Donovan Jackson is in our newsroom. Donovan, you've been kind of going through a lot of these messages of love from our community.
Yeah, definitely. And I tell you what, being a BR native here, seeing Donna Britt, growing up with her in our home, I used to sit down and watch the news with my mom, and to us, she was a celebrity, and I actually got a chance to meet her prior to this. When I was a little bitty boy, we went to go see a viewing of the Nutcracker over at the Centroplex, which is now the River Center, and I remember meeting her and thinking, oh my gosh, I'm meeting a celebrity, and she was like, no, I'm meeting a celebrity, because she was just one of those people that really enjoyed and loved and meeting people, and now getting a chance to work with her, she was just an amazing individual. And so many of you at home have also shared kind of those stories and how amazing she was. And there's so much of it. I want to try to get through some of them, but we just wanted to kind of share some of those stories from organizations, from many of you all. The Baton Rouge Zoo sending out their love and condolences to Donna Britt, giving her recently, or a couple of years ago, the Good Egg Award for the support that she provided in this community. Of course, the governor tweeting out about how they will dearly miss her, he and his wife. We have some of our former reporters, Graham Oakins, sending out some of his love and support for her, as well as the DA Hilla Moore speaking out on this family and on behalf of Donna Britt. A previous reporter with us, Kevin Fry, who was one of our political analysts, talking about the impact that he had on her as he came into this newsroom, as so many of us did. Also, this picture I love. I always call this the sweet and spicy mix. You can come into the newsroom and you see Donna Britt, and that's Cheryl, of course, you know who that is. But you get some of the sweetness from Donna Britt and over from, excuse me, from Cheryl. And just continuing going, folks in the community, Latangela Faye, she was a big radio personality here who loved her. Breck Superintendent giving their condolences and support for her. Other community members, I believe this Antoine Pierce, an activist in this community, and we know that she was a big supporter of community and activism in this community. I love this picture. This is over at Southern University. I'm an alum there from Southern, and you know, Southern University, often in the past, we talked about a school that was overlooked, but Donna didn't see that. She would step into there and talk to those students, and seeing this picture of them together in there just brings back really good memories. Other folks from the community, this young lady receiving a volunteer award from a person who was known for her volunteerism, and she was just saying how thankful she was for the support that Donna gave. And I showed this picture earlier, but I just liked it because interns that come through here, if you ever had a doubt about working in journalism, you just talk to this lady and it would change your mind and your perception of this industry. And even as we go over to our Facebook pages, you guys flooded our feed with so many beautiful comments about how amazing of a person she was, how much you all are gonna miss her, her peaceful, sweet spirit. Monique I grew up watching this lovely lady do the news report, and I relate to this so much because you grow up, if you're from this community, you're born and raised here, Donna Britt was in your home. And I think one of the reasons why we held her up to such a high regard, because she was truly the epitome of sweet and kindness and love and positivity. And you know, I'm from both parts of town here in Baton Rouge. You have the good and the bad, but Donna Britt did not care about that. She did not care about the color of your skin. She did not care about what you looked like, how much money you had, what you dressed, what you identified. She didn't care about any of that. Donna would go into communities in our area that some people would just drive by and not even look past. And she would go into those communities hugging on people and loving people. And I think that is why we love Donna so much, because during a time or times where we see where the world can be so nasty and so cruel, we knew that we had a beacon of light and hope that we could look to. And I'm pretty sure that that's something that all of us could relate to, and why we will continue to hold on to her legacy. And we got a chance to talk to so many of you all at home and you all out in the streets, just kind of sharing that love and support from the community. And here's a little bit about from what you all had to say out there.
We were so sad to hear the news. We watched her for years, and she's gonna be greatly missed.
We've lost a good news anchor, you know, a good person, you know, and it's a sad day in the news world.
I was sad. I was working, and I had a little break, and I pulled up Facebook and I saw it, and I literally told everybody around. We all kind of just took a moment of silence and just remembered how good she was to the city.
Donna was all that they said she was, and then more. And it's a shame because we've lost a top-notch person, and she was a great, fantastic person, and you hate to lose them.
The community just lost a really, really wonderful, positive, beautiful person. I loved personally her Facebook, always posting positive pictures, happy pictures.
Honestly, I'll always remember Donna for her optimism and for her kindness. She was just such a sweet, kind person, and it's really tragic. I mean, it's a loss to Baton Rouge, to the entire community, to her family, and God, I can't imagine what it would be like to be in their shoes right now, but she'll definitely be missed in Baton Rouge.
She was just, I feel like, a fixture of Baton Rouge for so long. It's really sad that a disease can take somebody that quickly, and I feel like Baton Rouge lost a little bit of its soul today.
They did indeed. Thank you very much for that, Donovan. We appreciate your perspective on this, and we appreciate all of the outpouring of support that so many of you have shared with us and shared with your own friends and family, because, while she affects her coworkers, we know that literally all of you out there, many of you grew up watching Donna Britt. I mean, she was your dinner table entertainment sometimes, and Donna Britt it has that lasting legacy on several different generations. When you span 37 years, you can tell that, you watch the news because your mom watched the news, and who'd they watch? Well, Donna Britt and George Sells were on there, and thank God so many people got to see just a terrific example of what love and cherished memories can really prove. Liz.
Absolutely, Greg. And, talking about her legacy, it's a wonderful thing to see. And it was something that she took so seriously. When you talk to, and when I say take seriously, she wasn't serious about it, but she knew so well that she was part of so many people's family, and so that is something that she always kept in mind, and so that's why she was so sharing of herself. She saw it as a privilege, as we all do, that so many of you at home joined her every single night. She knew that when she was on television that people were listening to her, and so she took that responsibility to heart. And she, when her last day here, I had the privilege of doing an interview with her, and Donna hated doing interviews about herself. I did 2 stories about Donna. One was about her breast cancer survival, and then one was on her last day here at WAFB. She hated to be interviewed, but she did tell me that she loved being considered Aunt Donna. We've heard that a couple of times today, but she loved the fact that people made her part of her family, and it was something that she really, really treasured. And I know that to hear everybody reciprocate that and bring that love back to her and share it with us today is such an uplifting thing for all of us.
Yeah, you got to think that when you have a great communicator like Donna, that her voice was such a part of her, and we've said it several times today, that she wasn't an anchor woman's voice. That was just Donna Britt's voice. That was the same voice that if you walked outside and something was going on in your neighborhood and you saw your neighbor over there and you said, hey, what's going on? That was Donna Britt on the other side of that fence telling you what's going on. So Donna and her communication, that's what we're going to talk about now, her voice. She actually went through what I think is unprecedented lengths to save her voice so that she could share it with her family and still be able to talk to her grandkids and her kids. And the story that you're about to see here actually won a national award. So people around the country recognize the unbelievable effort that Donna Britt was going through to save herself.
That's falling off the thing.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
The sun is new in the sky, and I, still not a morning person, am out for a recording session at LSU Speech, Language, and Hearing Clinic in Hatcher Hall.
Do you think that's it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
These are 1-hour sessions to lay down what some have called my major professional signature.
Unbearable heat. That story topping our headlines. And thousands have jammed the Mississippi levee. First to Louisiana's side of this buildup.
Does Republican presidential hopeful John McCain want Governor Bobby Jindal as a running mate? The I-Team's lead investigator, Kieran Chawla, is here with a preview. It's about now in the game, right?
Donna, mic check, please. Donna, mic check.
First in local HD news. Louisiana's News Channel brings you 9 News at 10.
About 30 years ago, a New York talent agent told me I had one of the best female TV voices in the business.
It's been just 24 hours since this man was...
But that TV voice is also my personal one. And with ALS, I know I will lose it when the muscles in my throat start dying.
We're told it happened just before 5:30 on Aldrich Drive.
Tell me if it's too loud or too soft.
So that's why I'm recording what I have in the LSU voice bank. My LSU grad student, Emily Watkins, fires up the software.
How nice my handkerchiefs look.
And I record phrases and sentences.
They aren't going to get any more of our dogs.
That are somewhat peculiar.
She was thin and gaunt and never smiled now.
Many are sentences from classic books like Little Women, Wizard of Oz, and more.
I thrashed them.
We try to get up to 1,600 sentences or phrases, if you will, for the what we use as Model Talker. So we can work with a minimum amount, I believe it's 400 if that's all we can provide. But the other option we can also provide is we can bank a family member or somebody that has a similar type voice pattern than you.
To their great joy, the trees became thinner.
Since I still have my voice, we go at it.
What must I do? Asked the girl.
The goal is to take communication beyond the robot sound of the world's best-known ALS patient, physicist Stephen Hawking.
My advice to young scientists is to be curious and try to make sense of what you see.
Emily Watkins watches all the gauges. She tries to get the clearest recording possible.
It looked at them in a strangely wistful way. Therefore, we must stop where we are.
Oops.
Okay. Therefore, we must stop where we are.
I asked, what do LSU students get out of this?
The students can learn about speech analysis and speech acoustics and speech movement, and then more importantly, how neurological conditions such as ALS can impact their communication abilities.
If you browse the web for samples of the finished product, the synthetic voice still sounds computery, but my voice will be recorded while it's here.
Every store costs money.
And as technology improves, I hope to hear it come out of the machine sounding more like the natural me.
And I actually did get to hear that last year. I think it was one of Donna's last big public appearances. She accepted an award for the Louisiana Association of Broadcasters. She was one of the first Hall of Fame inductees and gave her speech using that device, and it actually used the voice they recorded, and it did sound remarkably like Donna, and it was nice to hear that again. Also, speaking of nice to see again, we have Phil Rainier here. Phil, you were a longtime WAFB anchor reporter. You wore a lot of hats around here.
Yeah, I think everybody has, right?
Yeah, and you worked alongside Donna for years. What was your relationship like?
So Donna and I started at WAFB probably about the same time. She came on before me, but oddly enough, the old comes back around. We started in the old newsroom, which is now the new newsroom again. And no, I just remember Donna for being so authentic. I mean, you've heard people talk about the kind of person she was. It wasn't, what's on television and then how she was out in public. It was the same person. I like to say that Donna was a what you see is what you get person. She was genuine. She cared about people. Mm-hmm. She cared about her craft. She cared about how her craft, journalism, affected people. And she cared about her community. We've seen all of that in this newscast so far. And I tell you, we saw her commitment to the Salvation Army, and I remember that very well. Mm-hmm. Every year, it was a great cause, and she did so many things, but she would go out and ring that bell when it was so cold. And, a lot of people in our business, it's like, oh my goodness, do I have to do that? She not only did it, but she did it with joy. Mm-hmm. She loved doing that. One of the last things I remember about Donna, the last time I saw her, actually was my wife and I were coming out of the theater at Perkins Row. And right in that kind of a common area, mm-hmm. They were having a Salvation Army bell ringing event, and they had a choir there. Johnny A was there, Mark was there with Donna. Donna was in her wheelchair. But it just really struck me that Donna was so committed to that cause that even in the time that she was in, she wasn't going to stop. I mean, what a fighter she was.
Yeah.
And when I didn't want to be obtrusive because they were really, it was going around, everybody was revolving around the bell ringer and Donna, but I did want to say hi. And so I sort of leaned in and I put my hand on her shoulder and I said, Donna, it's Phil Rainier. You remember me? Dumb question, but I don't know. I asked that. And she looked at me and she kind of paused, and you know that Donna smile, it never changed. She said, I remember you. You're Phil Rainier.
I can hear her saying that too.
and the thing that really got me is she said, I love you. And you know, she meant it. She meant it. She really did. That's the thing about Donna. She was just so real. Now, that's not to say that Donna was a pushover. I can remember many times, and earlier in this newscast, when George Sells said, you know, she was a hard newswoman. She was a hard, aggressive, and went after the story. So she, and I can remember in the newsroom, you know, when she was passionate about getting to the bottom of a story, she was not shy about saying it. She would say, I don't think we're doing enough on this. And she would go right to the news director, or I'm sure Rob Hayes, who's our news director now, and tell him, you know, I don't think this is the way to do this story, or we should do this, or we should do that. But no, Donna Britt was a special person, and it only became more apparent over the years how special she was, and in her challenges, her courage. I think it really, it's like if you thought Donna Britt was a special person, she was a special person. There was, I mean, it's just, that was it.
Absolutely, and she was kind of the North Star in the newsroom and here at the station. She was a constant here that, you know, even as the faces around us changed and people came and they went, or they changed, you know, shifts or changed their role within the TV station, Donna was always there and kind of always reminding us of what, at the end of the day, our mission was, which was to serve the people in our community, both here in the TV station, but also when we left here, we still had to be good citizens for our community.
Right. She never treated anyone differently. I heard that a lot from the people that have been on before I came on. And I mean, the fact that whether you were an intern, whether you were a new hire, whether you were coming in as another anchor or reporter, or you were someone who worked in another department, she never treated you any differently. You were, she saw you, and she treated you with respect and dignity, and I mean, that says something about a person. Now, I will say this, I don't know if everybody had this impression, but I've heard, I think that Steve said that, and you even said that, she was not a fan of being interviewed. She was not a fan of being the center of attention, even though she did this every day. She saw it as a job and a responsibility and a service. But, you know, I always kind of took her as being sort of a shy person. She felt so strongly about her role and the opportunity that she'd been given to play a role in the community and to be of service, that she made a pointed effort to push herself to get out and do the things that she did, and that's something. That's saying a lot about a person. Absolutely.
Phil Rainier, longtime WAFB anchor reporter, thanks so much for joining us and helping us honor our friend today.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Phil. Terrific words there. Hey, take a look this. You may have seen this if you're driving around downtown. They used an image of Donna at her Salvation Army event. We love the Salvation Army, and boy, that was one of Donna's big passions outside of the newsroom. Just one of the many tributes popping up around downtown. Take a look here. Now, this is when Donna retired. What a terrific tribute. These were billboards around downtown. This is when she retired in 2018. A lot of folks saying thank you. Even the Baton Rouge Zoo put up some billboards thanking Donna for her service and her dedication. Tiger Stadium even had her up on the Jumbotron. She was so proud of that. Quick story, I remembered, Liz, while Phil was talking there. You know, Donna was so genuine. And one time we had a group of consultants come through, and they gave Donna perhaps some advice on maybe updating a few of her clothing items. And so she got this, it was a patent leather, real shiny black jacket combo thing, and she just hated it so much. And everybody was telling her, oh, it looks great on you, it looks great on you. So she goes on the set. Paul Gates, WFB legend, was up there. She gets on the set, and Paul's doing his news report, and then he's going to toss it to Donna for her to tease the news that was coming up at 6 o'clock. So Paul does his thing, and he turns to Donna, and this is the first time he's seen her in what is kind of a striking, flashy outfit. He's like, WFB's Donna Britt is here in her rain gear, apparently, to tell you what the news is. And so everybody got a big kick out of it, and that was the validation Donna needed. When she got back in the newsroom, she said, see, this isn't me. I'm not wearing this. And by 6 o'clock, she had on the Donna Britt gear. So just a little bit of glimpse of the anchorwoman, Donna Britt. Speaking of anchorwomans, WBRZ's anchor Sylvia Weatherspoon, a longtime friend of ours, used to work at WAFB. She got to share a lot of good memories with Donna Britt.
Yeah, they developed a very close friendship over the years and maintained that. And when Donna announced her retirement, Sylvia interviewed our adorable Donna about her amazing career and her battle with ALS. And we would like to share that with you tonight.
It is. Remember this?
Donna got a big kick out of an old picture I showed her, straight out of the late 80s. Big hair, even bigger shoulder pads, and yes, that's us posing for station photo when we worked together.
This position in times past has been filled by political allies of the new governor.
Donna successfully earned a stellar reputation as a trusted newswoman for more than 3 decades on TV in Baton Rouge. She's also very proud of who she was known as at Progress Elementary School, the library elf, because of her dedication to building trust with a group of kids in need of a little extra TLC.
I organized once a month a no-holds-barred ice cream party for the class that read the most library books. And that set off this incredible contest.
Sure.
These kids, they read voraciously because they could go in, get a bowl of vanilla ice cream, and pile on 20 toppings until they were gone. It was like no holds barred, as much as you want.
Donna has rallied around so many causes affecting people of all ages through countless programs, including the Salvation Army. And as a breast cancer survivor, she has carried the banner in the race for a cure.
When I learned I had ALS last year, I always knew this day would come.
1 year ago, when Donna revealed her diagnosis with ALS, she believes most people did not know what that condition looks like, the devastating physical toll it takes. Donna has not shied away from showing it, both on TV and social media.
The Ice Bucket Challenge put the name ALS on everyone's lips. But did they know what it did to a person? They can watch me like a Jenga game fall apart, and they can figure it out.
Donna says one of the hardest parts for her, not being able to help at home.
We basically lost a family member that put things away, and the family member that did the laundry, and the family member that washed the dishes. And so now Mark is doing everything. We never get it all done. The sink always has dishes. And at the end of the week, we're exhausted. I really appreciate the love and support.
Donna believes being transparent about the progression of the disease is worth it to educate and raise much needed funds. She got emotional talking about the prayers from so many of you, Though her body is very weak, she says the overwhelming support keeps her mentally strong.
I think they get it. I think they understand. I tell them that the wheelchair is obscenely expensive and that a poor family can never have one of these. You know, that fundraising is real important.
You did the Donna Britt ALS Day, where you helped to raise, it was overwhelming, the response.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
And you raised money for ALS.
Now, John Foles did that, you know, the free food, his White Oak Landing plantation. It was just terrific.
It was a great turnout, but that helps raise money for wheelchairs and research. So you're doing your part.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying. Thank you for also being my friends.
Tonight, the 6 p.m. newscast on WAFB was Donna's last. ALS left her no choice.
What's next?
I'm going to rest for 2 days. I have typed so much with a pencil this week, all the emails that have come in. I need to not move for 2 days. And then after that, I am reading the 51 Harvard Classic Collection, which is a lot of books. And I'm also going to make Christmas cards to sell at the farmer's market.
Donna says she may write a book, and you can still keep up with her on social media.
It's been an honor to work for you.
37 years of telling the news on TV in Baton Rouge. Donna calls that a gift.
I think about how full the whole experience has been, you know, and if you're looking back at all of that and you realize that you've been kissed by Coach O on the cheek, that you've known all the governors, you know, and some of their children, and the fact that you have done the environmental disasters and the natural disasters and did the legislature.
Everything you hoped it would be?
Oh, way more. Yeah, way more. I love it. Oh, beautiful.
Donna, from all of us at WBRZ, we wish you all the best.
What a wonderful way to go. Thank you so much. Is there cake?
There is cake. You know, we wear different jerseys, obviously, in this broadcasting business, but we appreciate the good folks over at WBRZ for that report and honoring Donna. I've heard from Chris Nakamoto and Michael Shingleton today, just honoring just a terrific broadcaster. I want to show you this right here while we have a little bit of time. This is a tangible piece of Donna Britt that we will have and we can cherish. This is her wedding gift when I got married, and she literally, this is her handwriting. She wrote on it, and it starts with "Once Upon a Time," and then it tells the story of me and my wife and how we met. It brings up my sweet dog Truman and my bird at the time, Louie, who she absolutely loved. Her son's name was Louie as well. She goes into talking about everything, and it kind of, you can barely see it, but it kind of circles around, and it ends with the heart there. She brings up Street Beat, and you know, Donna dressed her son as Street Beat. She was my biggest fan when I started, and Liz, that's what brings tears to your eyes when you think about somebody that actually cared about you and cared about your career and wanted your legacy to, you know, be anything even close to hers. Would be absolutely terrific. I did want to mention that so many of you out there are wondering, how can we pay our respects to Donna Britt? Well, because of COVID, we obviously can't get anything together right now. Her family is going to wait until after this COVID situation is over and perhaps have a memorial service after that.
Yeah, Greg, so we'll wait on that and we'll keep people updated. But, you know, talking about Donna and all the people in this community she's touched, and, you know, talking about the folks that wear the different jerseys. I was talking with Sylvia Weatherspoon earlier today, and she was talking about how Donna continued to rally her and encourage her. And she was like, you know, I always thought that was just to me, but it turns out that it's everybody. And I kind of feel the same way. She made you feel like you were the only person in the room and that you were the center of her attention. And I think everyone at home felt the same way, and that's why we love her and we continue to remember her. And she was such a wonderful, creative person. Now, this Sunday, you may have missed this morning's tribute to Donna, been at work or school. We're actually going to bring it to you again Sunday morning at 11, going until noon. Just another chance to hear from those who loved Donna and knew her best. We want to thank you again for the wonderful tributes you have shared with us. Thank you for honoring with us our Donna, our adorable Donna.